As usual, this meeting is being recorded and it may be broadcasted or rebroadcasted on the WestfordCAT. We will start, as usual, with open forum. Mr. Jenowitz, do you have anything to start?
Just if anybody is here for the library project, 15 Main Street, they have requested to continue the matter without any discussion to the November 18th meeting.
Great. I'll go to the board. Anybody from the board?
No.
Yeah, just a reminder for folks, the Westford Food Pantry is always appreciative of donations, but especially given the time of year now, so if people are so inclined, they would always appreciate donations around the holidays.
Great. Thank you. Anybody from the audience for open forum? All right, so we'll move on to our first public hearing item, which is actually our, do we need to, we don't need to continue, do we?
Well, we should take a vote. Yes, please.
Oh. Our first public hearing item, PB 2425, 50 Main Street, J.B. Fletcher Library. A motion to continue this to our November 18th, 2024 meeting here at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Second item, PB 2.
Just before you go on, just to let the audience know that that was at the request of the applicant.
At the request of the applicant. PB 2415, 7 Carl Thompson Road. This is continued from our October 7th meeting. Mr. Waterman?
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Lantec Consultants. Here with me tonight is Walter Erickson and Jim Paterno in the audience, the applicant and owners of 7 Carl Thompson. Melissa could not make it tonight. I believe she was traveling and running through Disney or something. Our last meeting was October 7th. We've been working. We updated the board kind of on landscaping, natural buffers, plantings. That was the kind of the focus of the last meeting. And then we kind of took some advice from the board members as we were leaving, kind of to reevaluate the massing of the building, the scale of the project. Walter and Jim have done that. We bring this to you tonight. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it. We did kind of brainstorm as a team, and then they went off on their own, and I can't take any credit for most of these changes. These were all came up from their experience and work in these types of buildings. So we did reduce the size of the building. We took one of the units off of each end from the easterly and the northwesterly end. You can kind of see that larger lawn, open space. The parking configuration kind of stayed the same. Inherently, I thought we'd be kind of updating the parking, but with the parking counts and the green banks, that actually didn't really change. But we did increase offsets for the building to the abutting properties. We eliminated 2 of the units, 1 at each end. We added a small mezzanine space inside the building, so the footprint got smaller, but the actual gross floor area stays the same for the building. And I thought that was a creative way to work with the board. They reduced the unit count. Previously, we had 13 units. Now this is reduced down to 6 units. Obviously, that reduces just the number of companies that are in there, the variety of things that can go on there. So I think that was a big help in trying to address the scale of the project. And with that, they evaluated the access to the building. They reduced the number of garage doors on the back side of the building, which was kind of the focus of the last hearing. They reduced it from 13 to 6 garage doors. With that, they reduced the number of man doors or person doors on the back from 14 down to 7. And then subsequently on the front of the building, the number of entryways into the facility was reduced from 13 to 6. And then they also set a height of the building to be no more than 24 feet on the front, sloping down to 22 feet on the rear. So I think there was a lot of effort there. I think it helps to reduce just the number of garage doors, workspaces, and all the things that I think this board was concerned with. And I think it was a really good job. We did resubmit to engineering. I believe we've addressed all of their engineering comments. We did respond to traffic, our traffic consultant. There was one more letter generated that there was kind of 3 or 4 kind of conditions of approval, and I'll just go through those quickly. The big one was I think it was comment number 6. We did respond today, and I don't think TEP has had a chance to respond, or TEC, excuse me. But the kind of a condition that they recommended was just maintaining the vegetation at the intersection of our entryway at Carl Thompson Road, just to ensure stopping sight distances are maintained. We have no issue with that. I think that's kind of a typical kind of condition of approval. The second one was just kind of evaluating the pavement of Carl Thompson Way. And this did come up, I think, during one of the initial reviews. There was some talk that it was just a binder course of pavement that was currently on Carl Thompson. We've inspected it. I'm not a pavement expert by any means, but there is a finished coat of pavement. Engineering records, we coordinated with them. It was paved in 2017. They have a rating that they hold for all the roads in town, an RSR, a road surface rating. And they have it at an 84, with 100 being no visible, issues with the pavement. And then they asked for what our thoughts are on our truck traffic or our fleet traffic. As you can see, the parking spaces are all standard 9x18 spaces. While we do expect deliveries with box trucks and maybe an occasional semi-truck, that is not the intent of this facility or business. We're not running crane companies out of here. We're not running heavy equipment out of here. We don't have parking spaces to accommodate that. And so we did respond formally that we anticipated it would be just light trucks, box trucks, deliveries, that type of thing is what we expect with our tenants. And then there was kind of two kind of straightforward conditions of approval, moving the sign out at the entrance of Carl Thompson and Groton Road. No issues with that, just to clean up some sight distance issues, and then provide a sidewalk connection from our facility out to Carl Thompson. We have no issues with providing that, and that makes sense. Lastly, they did talk about some TDM measures, which are kind of the issues that the planning boards, try to incorporate into site plans. Business parks, I think it's less with industrial parks and more with like office parks, ride sharing, all the traffic demand measures that you can help to kind of reduce the traffic demands around this area. While we agree that there's not really an effective use with an industrial building, we did kind of highlight where it is a multi-use. There is a variety of companies that would be in here. Inherently, we believe that there would be staggered work hours, and so reducing peak demand, so you're not having a wave of traffic at 8 o'clock where everyone has to be to work on the exact same time. So we did kind of just highlight that. Lastly, I just go through just a couple overall offset distances. I know there was some concerns, some comments with distances, and they don't show up very well. I apologize. It looks so much better on my monitor when I printed this. But just going on, and Joe, if you zoom out a little, well, actually, that's not a bad place to start. That's the closest building, which is off of 6 Betty Lane, and it's kind of faded. We do have like the aerial image in the background. Our development is off to the left with the gray pavement. You can see Carl Thompson kind of in the upper middle. And then Betty Lane is way off to the upper right. And so our offset distances are roughly 160 feet to 6 Betty Lane from our building. And then just for reference purposes, obviously Carl Thompson is an industrial park. It was built next to the industrial development along Groton Road. And so the kind of the residences along that northerly side of 6 Betty Lane all abut industrial abutters to the north. And we'll get that at the end, but the next, and moving around kind of clockwise to the south, you can see buildings that have frontage on Forest Road, those two smaller buildings, and that building there, those are both all accessed from Forest Road. They kind of have deeper lots. The houses kind of sit further back from Forest Road, and we're about 225 feet to the south and 380 feet to the west. And so reducing that unit on that westerly side helps obviously increase those buffers. And then to the north, there's abutters that actually have frontage that come off of Groton Road. And similarly, they have deeper lots. The houses are set back a little further with the busy road. And that's 375 feet to Groton Road. Some of the other distances that, like say this building, for example, has to the existing building on Carl Thompson, it's actually about 100 feet less. Where we're at 375, that one's 325. Excuse me, my math was off there, 50 feet. And then, again, we were kind of looking at some of the projects along that northerly side of Betty Lane, and where you actually have not only some of the businesses along Carl Thompson, but then there's some of those industrial properties along Groton Road, where you come up to the intersection of Oak Hill Road. And those setback distances, vary from as little as 50 feet to as much as 250 feet. And yeah, there we go. Thank you, Joe. And you can see Betty Lane. You have the same problem with PDFs that I do. It doesn't like to zoom all the time. So that's Betty Lane. Oak Hill Road is off to the right. Our project, or Carl Thompson, is to the west. The building to the left is the old Alpaco building. I'm not sure what the address. It's, I think, number 2 Carl Thompson. And then there's buildings to the north, which is 497, 499, Groton Road, and that one's about 100 feet from the house on Betty Lane. So just for reference, I think our closest abutter is 160 feet, and well, not ideal. There's it ranges anyway from 50 feet to about 400 feet for the average out here for some of the setbacks. And then lastly, I know we're in a war pod and the percent impervious. We just did some quick calculations for the other properties on Carl Thompson Road, where we propose 42% impervious for our project. Number 2 Carl Thompson is 54%. Number 5 is 31%. 45 Groton Road is 66%. And 497 Groton Road is 53%. So the average for the 6 buildings that I just kind of checked around our immediate area was about 53%. And so we were under that at 42%. I just thought that was an important kind of reminder that, that we are consistent with the neighborhood and on the less impervious side. I think we've answered all the questions, brought the board up to speed. Walter would be happy to answer any questions, and myself included.
Great, thank you. I'll let you go first, Bob.
Do we want to ask town if they had anything? Do we have anything from Joe?
Why don't we go through, and then if we can answer any questions.
All right. First question I had kind of was more to Joe, I think, than to Matt, but it just occurred to me that Carl Thompson is a public way. Do we know when that was accepted by the town?
I don't offhand, but we could try to find that information.
So I'm assuming that the paving that was performed in 17 was done by the town and not by the lot owners.
That would be correct then.
So, I mean, I think it's important to note that that pavement rating is not as a result of any of the developers on Carl Thompson. That was a town responsibility. One note in the pack here, I noticed the lighting analysis plan. I don't believe that has been updated with the reduced structure. So those numbers would improve as well, I believe, Matt?
Yes,
Obviously,
no, definitely, and I meant to say that, I think kind of a side effect of reducing the number of person doors is every person door has to have a light in accordance with the building code. Every overhead door typically gets, a wall pack of some form, and so reducing, between the doors, the garage doors and the front entryways, we're reducing up to 18 doors and 18 lights fixtures that go with that, so I think it's important. Thank you for reminding.
And the other thing to note that in our pack tonight, Joe, the elevation rendering is out of date since that was for the larger mast structure. So I'm not sure you want to redraw that, but at least there should be some kind of note on that in the file, that is no longer an accurate representation of the building, because that came from April in my pack. Do you have a newer one?
No, and I think that what's on the screen is the updated version.
Yes.
Because you can see the reduced garage doors.
Number of doors, yeah, was reduced.
Yeah, we only have 6 in the back. We submitted that with Matt's answers to the questions.
And the same on the front elevation. You can see the entryways are reduced.
Okay, so the date's wrong then.
Could be, yeah.
That would be Atlantex.
anyways, just,
Not a client error.
There's a revision date up here. but-
All right, good. So, yep. But we'll double check with Joe and make sure that we have updated renderings, but I'm pretty sure we do.
okay. That's really all I had. I mean, otherwise, thank you for reducing the size. And when you reduced the size, did the height come down, or did the height came down as well? I'm
lowered the
seeing
height
a
a
head
little
shake. So, I think it would be important to get that into the minutes, Joe, as to what those reductions were. We heard the number of units shrunk by 2, but also the height should be, I think, annotated. But, no, thank you.
Joni?
Just 2 quick things. Also, thank you. I think it makes a big difference that you've reduced the size of the building, and I certainly appreciate that. Your next thing, and again, I think this is more for you, Joe, the 16 October letter with the 2 former waiver requests. I'm not overly concerned about the first one. The second one, on the drainage piping, I just wanted to be sure that engineering had no issue with that. Okay. And
No, and I think initially in their comments, which I didn't incorporate, a lot of times we'll include their original comment and then our response. But where we were formulating as a formal waiver request, I believe in their comment, they said that this would require a waiver and they had no issues
believe so
with
as
that
well.
waiver. I think they had already
It-
stipulated that in their comment.
Okay.
And then we simply just provided that waiver as a formal request for the board.
super, thank you. I just wanted to check that they were okay with it. Other than that, great.
Great. Dylan?
It's an evening of gratitude. So thanks again for hearing the board and for reducing the size of the building. I do think that while the building is still large, it fits much better in like the buildable envelope, and I think that additional setback from the abutters will be well appreciated. And the reduction in the doors helps with the light, but I also think it really does help with the visual look of the building, and it makes it seem a lot less busy and industrial from the reduction of the doors. So I didn't have any other comments other than the other board members. Just appreciate you hearing what the board wanted to see, and I think you did a great job. I thought the use of the mezzanine was a very clever way to keep the amount of square footage in the building, and probably will be liked by the people who use the building as well.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Nope, again, kudos, thanks for working with the neighbors. I think it came out great. My only comment would be, if you look at the plan view, the updated plan view, Matt, that has the end units removed, but they're still white on the plan view. That's why I would just make sure that that's consistent with the new elevation view, because it looks like it's not quite lined up in terms of the space around the end of the building and things like that. I would just make sure that that's consistent with the elevation, updated elevation view. Otherwise, I think it's great.
Great. I'll go to the audience. Anybody in the audience have any questions, concerns, want to weigh in on this? Oh, we don't have the audience microphone, do we, Joe?
That's odd.
Use this one.
Oh, yeah, why don't you just hop right at her, yep.
Move it down the end if you want.
Hi, Patrick Shields, 51 Forest Road. I'm one of the long abutters on the side there. I do appreciate the size getting smaller. I missed the first bit of some of those other details. 2 questions I have are about the height and the shape. I know it's a sloped roof. Which way is it sloping now? Is the short side of the building,
Front to back.
is the tall side of the building facing,
Kyle Thompson. The tall
the
side.
tall side faces Carl Thompson?
Yes.
Is that the primary entrance now, or?
Yes.
Okay. That would be my concern. And the short side of the building is how tall?
22.
22, and the tall side is 20.
4.
Okay. Yeah, that would be my biggest concern is the, like, the height. Because I know the existing 2-story building there is like another neighbor in my backyard right now. So a giant building that's that big is going to be kind of oppressive. And I have a natural hill. My neighbors directly to the east of me on Forest have very little backyard and no elevation to block that, so it's gonna be right in their backyard, so that's my big concern with that. And I'm gonna echo again my same concern from before about water from the imperviousness of that having an effect on the general water table and nearby areas. So I have no expertise to say it's definitely a problem, but that's my main concern.
And I'll tell you that we have an engineering department that is their expertise, so we'll follow what they decide and what they guide for the stormwater management.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Hi there.
Good evening.
Lisa Nicaltion, Holsworth, Betty Lane. Thank you, and thank you for being concerned with the neighborhood, and I'm very grateful that you redesigned it. So he's been absolutely wonderful to work with, cooperative and all that, and I'm looking forward to having a lovely neighbor to work with. I do have one question. I've been trying to keep up on the packet and the documentation going back and forth. I must be missing something. Was there a traffic study? I didn't see it. Is it in the packet?
It did come in late last week after the packet was put together, so we did provide it to the applicants. They had a chance to review it. Sounds like they don't have much or any concerns
Well, I
with the
think
comments.
the neighborhood needs to be able to keep up with
Sure.
what's going on as well. So can we make those things available?
Absolutely, they are available to anybody in
Okay.
the public.
How and when can we do that so that we're able to keep up with you and not slow you down?
We can certainly have it available for the next packet, and again, we could always have it available through the document management system online on the packet.
I can email it to you.
We're gonna continue the public hearing, so it's not gonna close it tonight, so you'll
That was my
you'll have time.
concern. I
Yep.
wanna make sure we're
Yep.
all having our cooperative moments and.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no worries.
You're welcome.
The traffic study was very thorough, by the way.
Great.
Okay, anybody else? So I'll go to the board. Should we ask them to start working on a decision, continue this to the next one, and
Yes.
does that work for you, Mr. Erickson?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Look forward to getting engineering's final
Yep.
sign off.
All right, so can I have the November 18th meeting? Does that work for?
That's okay.
Motion to continue PB 2415, 7 Carl Thompson Road to November 18th, 2024, 7 o'clock here in this room.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that concludes the public hearing portion of our program this evening. We are on to general business, PB 2426, 015 Groton Road, for stormwater management. Joe?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So this is two single-family homes. You may be familiar with this. It came in via an A&R a short while ago, probably about a month or two ago. So because there's more than an acre of disturbance among the two lots, requires a stormwater management permit. Engineering department didn't really have many, really involved comments. They all seem pretty standard comments that you've seen from other stormwater management permits.
Close the door for you.
Please, thanks.
You can also see if the applicant has any issues with the comments. I don't imagine so, but I'll let them speak to that.
Thank you. For the record, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Here with me tonight is Mark Gallagher, and Mark Gallagher with Seal Harbor. And then additionally, Jonathan Silverstein, thank you, in case we had any legal questions. Hopefully we don't. But as Joe described, I think everyone's kind of familiar with this project. There's a lot of activity on Groton Road in this area. Not only is they're redoing the Blue Brook culvert, which I'm sure everyone's aware of if you've driven on Groton Road, but Seal Harbor has been busy developing kind of what we're calling Phase 1, which was the 5 lots east of Blue Brook as you get closer to where Forest Road crosses Route 40. This permit that we're here for tonight, the stormwater management permit, is for what we're calling Phase 2, or Lot 6 and 7, which is on the westerly side of Blue Brook. It's behind, there's a little red house they're using as a staging area. Seal Harbor has been working with the town and the contractor for the Blue Brook culvert replacement, and they are staging on our property down in the front right now. So there is a lot of equipment there. Some of it might be Seal Harbor's, but I think most of it is associated with the culvert replacement. just to kind of give you a little background on what's going on there. The little red house, which is 415 Groton Road, gets wider as you go back, and it's always been under the same ownership as the rest of this land, the S&S Holdings. The house was rented over the years. It was a TV repair shop at one point. It's actually zoned business, that front lot. Where our goal tonight, and I'll go through the stormwater management permit, but we're just developing 2 lots. This lot 6, which is kind of the close-up that Joe's showing, which is our Hammerhead lot off of Groton Road. And then off to the left, there's lot 7, which has frontage on Groton Road via 409 Groton Road. But we're going to be gaining our access off of the access road that kind of cuts from Groton Road over to Lakeside Meadows, Muriel Drive, Lawson Road neighborhoods. It's a buildable lot. The A&R has been endorsed and signed off. And we'll get into that when we get into lot 7 in a second. Lot 6 is 4.44 acres. It does have the existing red house that was built, I think Joe said 1950. Lot 7 is currently a vacant lot, 2.76 acres. And that has, again, the frontage on Groton Road. And where we're developing, they're both residential A zoning districts. Lot 6, just for lack of a better word, is a redevelopment. We're tearing down the existing house, demolishing the existing house, and building a new 5-bedroom. And I think I think we've been working to develop with Board of Health, and that may be a 6-bedroom or even a 7-bedroom. But the layout and the grading is exactly the same if that septic does get a little bit longer. And we've been working with Conservation Commission. Blue Brook is not only a wetland resource area, but it's a riverfront resource area. And in redevelopments, like on the east side where you had that stone house, and there's a lot of open space and lawn area, there's a lot you can do to maintain certain areas. In this case, where it's primarily wooded in the back of this, the Seal Harbor went to great extents to stay out of those resource areas and maintain the 200-foot buffer, no touch, with the exception of just at the entrance and getting up out of the resource area. And so we've worked with Conservation, and we've been in front of them, and I think we have one more meeting that we're expected to get approvals. But that was just going through all of the resource areas, and there's significant restoration of riverfront in that area.
6 and 7 have an NOI.
Oh, yes, they do have the NOA. Sorry, we did close with Conservation. Thank you. But it kind of ties into stormwater management, where we're kind of focusing on redeveloping that front area, restoring it, the riverfront buffer, but it kind of has a steep up incline, and then it kind of goes into the back, into the woods. And so we have stormwater at the entrance of the site with a rain garden, and then we have stormwater closer to the house in the back, and then roof drains in the backyard for the house. And all of that, trying to minimize the limits of clearing and all the things that we do when we're planning to try and build this. So there was a lot of thought that went in, and a lot of it was, before we got to this board with stormwater management, we focused on conservation, where there was so much resource area on this lot in particular, lot 6. Lot 7, moving off to the west, similarly, there's no resource areas, but there was the focus on stormwater management with the rain gardens and infiltration trench along the driveway, and maintaining the peak rate of runoffs for both properties in all directions towards the abutters. Both lots have utilities of electric water being extended on-site septic systems. There's no wells. There is town water, so they'll be connecting to town water. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. Relatively straightforward. Engineering did issue a letter. All of their comments were conditions of approval and recommended conditions. There was no comments. So we have no issues with their letter. And
You
we
okay
agree
with their
all the-
recommendations?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Bob?
First on this, compliments on the detailed operations and maintenance plan. Question on that is, because it is so detailed, I think it seems to be important to the appropriate stormwater management of this parcel. My suggestion is that part of the conditions be that that be recorded as a covenant to the deed, to ensure that that goes with the property from homeowner to homeowner. Those things have a tendency to get lost if it's
I agree.
just a casual document.
And I agree 100%, and I like to say I remember most of the engineering comments, but a lot of times they do incorporate that. And in this case, I think they even took it a step further and recommended that we prepare one for each lot. Right now, they're universal in the sense that it applies to both lots, but we would break it up prior to the occupancy permit. So it'd be specific for each lot, one for lot 6, one for lot 7, and then it could get recorded if the board wishes, and we'd have no issue with that. A lot of that, the O&M is just best management practice. It's getting homeowners aware of stormwater. It's getting them, reminding them of their septic system and the do's and don'ts. And everything from yard waste to pet waste to snow removal. I mean, you name it, that we covered in that. It was kind of taken from stormwater NPDS permits, the EPA for larger projects. With the local stormwater management, the regulations kind of mimic a lot of that, and the engineering department expects the same level of detail even for these smaller projects. So we provide that same O&M manual and long-term pollution prevention plan for the individual stormwater lots. Just as a summary.
Yeah, the pet waste is what caught my eye, because I was surprised that you were focused on pet waste on the whole parcel. So I can understand maybe on the lawns, but is there a concern with the aquifer there that pet waste would significantly impact?
No, I don't think there was anything specific to this project. That was a
generic.
A lot of our recommendations in those O&Ms are consistent. They're specific to the drainage devices, but the long-term pollution prevention are consistent with all of our projects. And that's taken right from the EPA, their guidelines, and what they expect in these documents.
Yeah, because I just expect there's quite a bit of wildlife out there as well, and I'm not sure if you're asking the homeowners to remove that waste from their property as well.
Certainly not.
So I just see people policing the woods. Okay.
Hopefully not.
And that's really my only comments on that. But my compliments was it was a very extensive plan. I have one comment that I'm not sure it falls under the stormwater management permit, but it was certainly in the plans. And it has to do right there, Joe, if you can stop scrolling, with the fire truck turnaround. Only concern on that is that on that long drive just appears as a dumping ground for trailers or other items.
It's gonna have a no parking.
And that's my question. It needs to be,
Anytime we do a fire turnaround, we stripe it.
and I guess I would like that so noted in the plan if we could, Joe, so that it's part of the record for the town.
They also required us to, we ran a 6-inch, we're running a 6-inch main up the entire driveway, and we're putting a hydrant at the top.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's designated by them when the time comes, hopefully sometime later this month.
And the pavement widths for that driveway were very,
Yes.
Mark worked with the fire department to get what their goals were for the pavement widths of 14 feet wide, obviously the turnaround, but the entrance coming in, where it was kind of a deeper lot with a larger footprint, they kind of put a little extra review into it and looking at it a little more carefully. And with that came a more detailed driveway, and as Mark said, this will become more functioning like a small little private road where it is such a long road, and we have no issues with any of those types of conditions with signage or
Yeah,
maintaining.
no, thank
We
you.
do.
So,
Great.
that's it.
Joni?
I just have a few questions. First of all, compliments on some of the measures you took, like the rain gardens. I mean, those are awesome. I think they're really.
Have you been down to see the ones we've already put in?
I go by there quite often, so yes, yeah.
Look beautiful.
No, they are
they
gorgeous.
came out nice.
Yes. Couple of questions, though. I noticed you do have, I really like the proposed dry wells on Lot 6, you know, for the the roof drains. I noticed you don't have them on Lot 7, assuming that is because it is so close to the wetlands, but just wanted to, to ask.
Well, there's a vernal pool on the other side.
Okay,
No,
that's
and I
why.
think the drainage and the way that the grading, so this, everything kind of goes uphill as you go plan north. And the way that everything kind of grades to that rain guard in the middle, where that one's a little bit bigger than most of the ones that we've been putting on these smaller A&R lots, it wasn't needed. It does capture the front half of that roof, the grading going into that rain garden, and then the back half does not. So it was just a function of the drainage. It didn't require it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just one other question. The grades, particularly on Lot 6. I guess I'm a little concerned about, stabilizing, how you're gonna stabilize those during construction, getting grass to grow. I mean, those are some pretty good-sized hills.
We understand that it's a sensitive thing.
Yeah.
We're hopeful this evening that you will provide us the approval. We are hopeful to be able to get staff out there before the end of this week for our pre-construction. And then we will clear next week. We are scheduled to pave prior to the first week of December. We own all our own equipment. You've noticed we've gone very quickly. And we complete everything so that we can go from one to the other without any interruption. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna bring all the toys in and put them all to work and go very quickly to get up above that hill, get the slope stabilized, get erosion control mats on, get all of the things necessary for winter stabilization, and make sure that our road doesn't end up down on Route 40.
Okay.
We're very sensitive about that.
Okay, good,
I
thank you.
think similar to the first phase, I think a lot of stabilization is bark grinding, stump
Yeah.
grindings.
Yeah, we have a lot of stump grindings.
So I think they'll I would expect that they would temporarily stabilize those with the stump grindings, and then that kind of naturally just holds it in place and becomes more of a natural hill, natural slope.
Okay.
So, Mike, I had one follow-on question to what he just said.
Sure.
You're paving, you say, by the 1st of December,
That's the first week of December.
which is only because this is a private drive.
That's correct. We
That
can't
that
pay if it
is
was.
outside of the town's guidelines for anything
Correct.
that is public.
Yeah,
right
over
away.
50, well, depending on the town, ascending temperatures. Yeah, we're very, very familiar, but this is a private drive. It's a reason that we put the water main in while they were doing the Blue Brook.
Right.
Because that's a big adventure in the road.
So your main's already in?
We have our main in.
Right,
Yeah,
'cause
we have our
they'll
main in.
hold you up.
Yep. Yep. So we've tried to do everything ahead of time. The power is on one side of the driveway, not in the driveway. As you know, they tend to slow us down quite a bit. But we're hopeful now that Mark has been working with them for quite some time, and we're hopeful that it moves quickly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's it, thank you.
Bill?
No questions, no concerns. Thank you.
No, it was great, thank you. My only question is on Lot 7, just kind of the access. So it looks like you have an easement going through
Parcel A.
parcel A, and then it goes out into the gravel road. Is that,
Kind of paved.
yeah, is that maintained by the town, or is that, or is the owner
It's
gonna
not.
be responsible for that?
It's a private way. So, one of our to-dos before it gets too cold is to drop some gravel and maybe some coal patch, or if it's warm enough, something else in there to better the road. We've met with the town several times about the road, not to try to get any work done by them. But, yeah, I mean, we are more than willing to do some work to that, to bring it up before the winter months come. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, this isn't a public hearing, but everybody have any comments? So then, can I get a motion to approve PB 2426, 0 and 15 Groton Road Stormwater Management Permit?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye? Aye. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you. All right, moving on to PB 2410, 427, 429, 431, 433, and 435 Groton Road. Request to review and approve changes to 427 Groton Road is approved by a minor modification. Okay,
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Here with me tonight, Seal Harbor team, Mark. And the attorney is still with us, John Silverstein. Directly behind me, I couldn't see him, sorry. We're here tonight for, so we did a stormwater management permit for phase 1, which was lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes the existing house, the stone house that everyone's familiar with. We submitted, part of that stormwater permit is when you go to build your development or your house, you have to submit a plot plan. It's condition number 19 in most of the stormwater management permits. It's a very lengthy condition that has all the requirements that you're supposed to check: ground cover areas, drainage, final design on roof drains, any soil testing that may needed at the end. And so we submitted that a couple weeks ago to Joe. We're here tonight because it did vary kind of from what we had originally approved with the stormwater management permit for this lot only, not any of the other lots. Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all consistent with minor changes maybe here or there, but this one kind of took off in a little different direction. When it was approved with an addition off the existing stone house. Our goal and the goal of Seal Harbor from day one has been to preserve this house. There is historic value. It's the original ticketing house for the old trolley line, is what we're told, or our research tells us. And so we've always tried to kind of maintain the stone house, and they've worked with their architect and their realtors to try and come up with ways to make that function in a way that is marketable. And when we did that originally, we had a kind of a draft addition. It was a significant addition. It was just under 1,400 square feet addition, with garage and new kind of living space, kitchen areas. And then they've been quietly marketing that for the last 6 months, 6 or 7 months, and they've had not any luck with that existing house. And so Mark did a good job and came up with a new area, and similar to how I was describing Lot 6 and with the resource areas and Blue Brook, which is on the left-hand side of this plan, we were kind of focused on how could we make this, a marketable lot, residential lot, and still minimize impacts to the resource areas or the equivalent of what we had done before. And so he came up with a detached house, and then that existing stone house becomes an art studio. Obviously, the ADU bylaw is changing in the near future. That's obviously a consideration that's on the board. But right now, until that becomes final with the state, there's no indication except turning this into a vacant kind of art studio space. And so, I think that everything towards the front from the existing building, which is right in the middle of the plan, and north, the driveway hasn't changed, the grading scheme hasn't changed, the rain garden. There's a significant restoration plan in the buffer zone that's kind of tied into the conservation permits. And so the big change from a stormwater management permit was just resizing those roof drains specific to each of these detached dwellings. So that's really the only change. Obviously, the house was put further outside the resource area, the 200-foot riverfront buffer. We had to redesign a septic system, so there was some additional clearing to get a septic system that would fit with this layout. But otherwise, like everything from a stormwater management point, like north of the 427 Groton Road, hasn't changed.
Great, so let me ask Joe, I don't see anything from engineering in our packet. Have they chimed in on this?
So they have, as of this morning or early this afternoon, they did not have any issues with the changes that are proposed.
Right, since this is an A&R lot, really our consideration here is stormwater management. Right.
Correct,
So-
yeah. So they did review, they did not have
And
any
they're okay?
concerns. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess what we're requesting is the board would approve it as a minor change. I should have mentioned that, sorry.
Bob, do you have any questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, following up on my similar line of questioning for the previous lots, you have two T turnarounds, I notice, on 427. One appears like it could serve as a driveway for the art studio or
Correct.
accessory dwelling unit. The other one appears to be a required T turnaround for the fire trucks? No,
No, only on lot 6.
only on lot
That was their
6.
only concern.
This is more of a standard kind of residential turnaround. It is exaggerated a little bit. I kind of think it's not, we enlarged it a little bit just where it is kind of pigeonholed in there, and I felt like turning was kind of important, so we did enlarge it above what we would normally do. But we didn't take it to the level of doing turning movements for a full-size fire truck.
That was my only question, because it wasn't so labeled as a fire turnaround.
Not on this lot.
Okay, I'm good.
Joni?
I love the art studio idea. I think that's great.
Trying to find a way to preserve it.
Yeah, and appreciate that. But no, I have no comments. Thank you.
Dylan?
No comments.
Darren?
Nope, as long as engineering's fine with it, that's fine with me.
No comments, so, motion to,
Approve a minor modification.
PB 2410, 427, 429, 431, 433, and 435 Groton Road.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on to PB 1526, Abbott Mills, request to review and approve changes on overall site plan to Abbott Mill, previously approved plans as a minor modification.
See you guys.
It is the orange button. Don't hit the red button.
I'll
That'll
try my
turn
best.
everything off.
Oh, geez.
Hi everyone, I'm Hildy Karpwich. I'm from High Point Engineering. We're a civil site engineering company out of Dedham, Mass. And we're here representing Acre Properties, and here with me is Tina Ladd and I just met him today, so. What the purpose of us here today is to talk about some of the landscaping improvements that we're proposing at Abbott Mill. As you know, it's getting cold, so we are really trying to do this as quickly as possible, get the plants in the ground, and this is all landscaping work. So there are 3 areas that I would like to focus on today. Are you guys all familiar with Abbott Mill?
Yep.
Okay, I figured it's a pretty prominent development in town.
And
so.
just for some context too, we, Acre purchased the site in April 2024. So we're relatively new owners. We've been owners for about 6 months, and we are actively looking for ways to kind of improve the site conditions and the general environment for the residents.
Great.
This is just the residential piece,
Yeah.
not the
This is just the
millworks?
residential piece,
Not the-
yeah.
Yep. So there are 3 different areas we're going to be looking at today. The first area is the fire pit area. It's part of the old railroad. They're just adding a fire pit in this area, so that's the first one. The second area is the back parking lot. This is plantings only. There's no other work that we're proposing here today. And then this area is it's used as a dog exercise area today, and they want to make it better for dogs and essentially fence it in and add more landscaping. And then there are 2 future pictures, which we are not looking to do right now. So it's on the plans. We're obviously not trying to hide it since it's out there for you, but we also are not trying to do it this fall, so that'll come at a later date. Can we skip to the next? Thanks. All right, so this is the fire pit plan. It's a little hard to see here, but essentially all they're doing in this area, this is the simple one that's kind of close to the entrance. We are adding a fire pit with an internal propane source, so that way you don't have to dig up. It's a nice flagstone area. They didn't want to dig it up and remove some of the historical character. There's some paint, there's some above ground equipment that they also want to maintain. So to keep the natural characteristics and preserve all the character, they're adding above ground planter boxes. Can we skip to the picture one just to get some little context? I think that'll be helpful. Sorry, I'll have to do a little bit back and forth here.
Yeah, and this area is existing right now, and it's used for seating, and we're adding basically an FF&E piece as a propane fire pit for the residents, and then we're improving the landscape. We do plan on taking up a tiny bit of the flagstone to plant inside, just to create like a nicer green environment, but it will remain mostly intact. And we're going to keep that old sprinkler pipe. It brings some nice character, and we like the industrial feel that it maintains at Abbott.
That old pipe is not used?
It's not in, yes, it's not in service.
It's not gas.
It's not gas. We were concerned about, we're like, this would be perfect for a fire pit, and then we were, for a second, like, wait, is that a gas pipe? But it's not.
Can you scroll down on the page a little bit? So this is the back parking lot area as it exists today. The broken pavement that you see is the abutting property, that's the industrial property. So the plan here is to add plantings partially as a screening, just to improve the aesthetic characteristics. On the other side, that you can't see off to the left, it's not the most scenic industrial building out there. So this is just breaking up the parking lot for the residents. You can see all the residents parked to the right from this parking lot in the building. So the only thing that's happening here is planting. It's just planting the existing grass area, no addition of impervious area, no regrading, just planting alone.
And we feel that it will provide a better, like, visual buffer between the two, because right now there are a lot of people obviously use the millworks, and they sometimes come through the property, so we want to formalize sort of the separation between the two through just planting.
All right, and then the third area is the dog exercise area. So right now, this is an area that is currently used for the dogs. There's a lot of dogs. If you walk around this development, so many people are walking their dogs around. So we wanted to give them an area that they could run around in. They wouldn't have to be leashed all the time, and they could enjoy it a little bit more. It is already used as a dog exercise area, which is why you can see the pet waste disposal bucket right there. But we wanted to enhance the area a bit and make it into more of a dog park. Going back to the plan. So in this area, we plan to fence it in, and we are adding a filter strip to prevent to capture some of the runoff and mitigate some of the stormwater that is coming from the parking area. We are showing concrete here because that was our original thought process, because it's more plowable. But we had toyed with the idea of switching it to appease Concom to stone dust, and then once we saw the old permits, it requires us to keep this area permeable. This used to be an impermeable. This used to be completely paved. In 2015, they ripped up the pavement, and one of the permit conditions was that we couldn't repave it, and we couldn't add in any impervious area. So the only change to this that you see here is that the concrete paving will just be a stone dust walkway instead. For stormwater measures, again, it's all impervious, it's all pervious. We're using a fine pea stone. Since Stony Brook is right next to this area, we are adding a slight berm. It's a 6-inch berm in this area that we're gonna have tall grasses on. So that way, if there's any dog waste, it'll be contained. And when I was at the site, I've never seen dog waste around, so it seems like the residents are very good about picking it up. And I was specifically spending time in this area where they do have the dogs today. But just in case there's anything, it should be trapped within this area for maintenance to deal with. And we did speak with Concom. We went to their last hearing, and they determined that they don't have any jurisdictional control over the area. We're exempt from the local regulations because it's gardening. And then the state regulations, we're above the floodplain, all the mapped floodplain elevations. And historical mills are exempt from riverfront regulations by the state. So we are all set with Concom too. Are there any questions?
Bob, we'll start with you. Any questions?
The only question I have, because this is probably more under the purview of the select board in the future, but with respect to the fenced-in dog area, are there going to be rules about people must be present when their dog is in that area?
Yeah, we will have like a sign for residents and potentially a key fob so that it's only accessible for residents, and we'll have our dog park rules, which will require attendance with your dogs, and then, you know, the general, like, pick up after your dog, you know, the general rules of the dog park.
Yeah.
And we feel that putting this here too will help control just where the dogs are generally on the property, because right now they roam around everywhere. There are multiple dog waste containers throughout, but I think this will help us kind of maintain a location where people exercise their dogs.
Okay, that's really it, so,
Joni?
thanks.
I have, I have no questions on the landscaping. It looks great. I do, however, have a question on Jeff's email about the SHI, and I don't know if that's something that.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, I would love to talk. I'm the chair of Affordable Housing, so
Oh,
I would
perfect.
love to hear
Okay.
if there is a willingness to include some of these affordable units on the SHI.
So that's something that I also wanted to talk about. As you know, so we did work very closely with Chris Yule and Yule Development on transitioning the property. I've gone through the documents that we have today. We do have 23 affordable units on site, which is what I think there was originally a permit in 2005 for phase one that asked for, I think it was 19 affordable units in total. That was updated in 2013. There was an exemption due to, I think, it being in a specific district, that the affordability count was 10% of the total unit count. So that's where we are today. So I was curious because this was also, Jeff brought this up to me when I first met with him, and I wasn't very familiar with the SHI requirements. So I also wanted to hear from you specifically what your questions are and how we can address them. And whether it's, production of documentation showing the affordability units that we have today, which range from 50% AMI to 80% AMI. I think we have 10, 50% AMI, and the remaining are 80% AMI. So we have all of those units listed. I got them from our property manager, and I know that in the maintenance permit, or like the maintenance document that I reviewed today, there is a requirement to submit on an annual basis an update on these units. I'm not sure if that has been done by Yule Development in the past, but we're certainly willing to do that. But in any case, I'm curious, I'd like to hear more from you and what you're looking for.
I personally would love to, from the affordable housing side, of course, would love to be able to get these on the SHI. And I know I was on the affordable housing committee at the time.
Okay.
When phase two was done. So anything that we can do to help you, obviously, get them on the SHI, we would certainly be willing to do. The Affordable Housing Trust would be glad to do.
Oh, okay. So they're not necessarily, they're not considered SHI today?
No, they're not, and that's the problem.
Oh,
There were some issues, if I recall correctly, the issues had revolved around paperwork that Yule Development had to do that they could not really follow through on with the state. So I would love to do whatever we can to get these on. So whatever it takes,
I'm very happy to.
Yeah, the trust would love to work with you on that.
Absolutely. So maybe I can get your contact after this meeting. And
Absolutely,
we can connect.
yes. Okay, super, thank you.
Yeah.
You have anything?
All the landscaping looks great.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I think it'll be a big improvement. I'm very familiar with the industrial building you were referring to.
Yes.
And its previous owner.
No, I know. So, yeah.
You're familiar in that you use it often, or?
No, we've toured that site a few times.
Oh, okay, got it. I know that they host very big tournaments there, so it gets quite a lot of use.
All right, so for PB 1526 Abbott Mills, the request is to approve this as a minor modification.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Great.
Next up, we are reviewing our meetings dates for next year.
Someone bought that for
Yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts, questions, concerns?
One thing I would add on this, Mr. Chair, we did throw in a couple extra meeting dates in here.
Extra?
We're certainly welcome to remove some. Typically, they revolved around school vacation week. So if you wanted to reduce it down to one week per month, we could do that. Otherwise, we could, at least have them on the schedule. We could reserve the meeting room. Sure, go ahead.
Yes, please do.
We
Good,
have
I'm
this-
here, I'm ready.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
the date reserved for the board, the event you needed the extra meeting dates for whatever reason. We did also remove the date around special town meeting in October, just to avoid any conflicts in the future. So you only have one meeting in October listed in the calendar.
My thought, it's always easier to cancel a meeting than it is to add one on here, so I'd be in favor of keeping the schedule. But.
The only comment I had was whether we could do an alternative schedule with the meetings separated every 3 weeks, from January through June. They're pretty much every other week. And it's a pretty aggressive schedule, and I'm not sure we've had that much business recently.
I'm
So-
afraid that with MBTA, you know, we're gonna start getting,
At some point, yeah,
Yeah.
but we can always add.
so that's my point, is
Meetings
like,
for
I think it's easier to drop than it is to add.
Yeah.
So, if you're in business, right, and you have these lists and you know that you could have this meeting, or know relatively there every other week or every 3 weeks, as opposed to, okay, is there gonna be, can you add a meeting for us?
Happy with.
Yeah, I
as
agree.
it is.
I totally agree.
I have no
It's easy to
specific
drop.
issues, just the nature of my work. Some of these Tuesdays will inevitably be difficult for me to get to, but that, you know, couldn't tell you which ones right now, but
Yep.
just the way that Puma brings people in. Sometimes we have guest visitors from overseas and otherwise, and they tend to arrive in the middle of the week, so could be some conflicts on my schedule, but no reason not to keep the
Right,
schedule. I
there's-
think
there's-
it's a good schedule.
Okay. Aaron?
Nope, I'm happy with it.
Bob, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Review of minutes, you don't need a vote on that, right?
On the calendar, no. We don't need that.
Motion to approve the minutes dated October 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I had no comments.
I have no comment. There's a motion and a second? No, yes, there is. All those in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
No correspondence that I recall?
No, Mr. Chair?
Nothing. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.